The moment a nation deploys a weapon traveling at Mach 27 through the upper atmosphere, it does not merely possess a faster projectile than its adversaries. It fundamentally dismantles every assumption that modern missile defense architecture was constructed upon over the previous 4 decades of continuous Cold War engineering investment. Speed in strategic weaponry is not simply a technical specification recorded in a classified government document. It is a physical property that compresses the decision-making window of the defending nation from several precious minutes down to intervals so vanishingly short that human judgment cannot reliably function and automated response systems must take over entirely. Understanding what separates a fast missile from a genuinely hypersonic one requires a precise reckoning with the physical boundaries that aeronautical engineers use to classify flight regimes, because the labels subsonic, supersonic, and hypersonic each describe a qualitatively different physical environment that the vehicle must endure, not merely a different number on a speedometer. A subsonic missile traveling below Mach 1 operates in a relatively forgiving aerodynamic environment where conventional aluminum alloys and established propulsion chemistry are entirely sufficient, while a supersonic weapon pushing between Mach 1 and Mach 5 demands titanium structures and carefully engineered inlet geometries to manage the shockwave energy hammering against its airframe at every moment of sustained flight. The hypersonic regime above Mach 5 is categorically different from anything that came before it, because the aerodynamic heating generated at these velocities is so phenomenal that the boundary layer of air surrounding the missile begins to chemically disassociate, tearing apart molecular bonds and generating sustained surface temperatures that approach or exceed 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit across the weapon's leading edges. At the absolute pinnacle of this extraordinary speed hierarchy sits Russia's Avangard hypersonic glide vehicle, a weapon that Russian officials have publicly claimed achieves sustained velocities of Mach 27, which corresponds to approximately 32,200 kilometers per hour. The Avangard is not a missile in the traditional sense that most observers envision when the word is invoked, but rather a hypersonic glide vehicle that is carried into the upper atmosphere riding atop a conventional intercontinental ballistic missile booster before separating from the rocket and gliding toward its target through the thin air of the upper stratosphere at an altitude that conventional interceptor missiles cannot reliably reach. What distinguishes the Avangard from a standard ballistic re-entry vehicle is the combination of its extraordinary speed and its genuine ability to maneuver laterally across hundreds of kilometers during the glide phase, executing evasive course corrections that render trajectory prediction algorithms completely useless against it. At Mach 27, the aerodynamic compression heating around the Avangard's airframe is so intense that the air molecules immediately surrounding the vehicle ionize into a sheath of superheated plasma, and this plasma layer, rather than merely being a spectacular physical phenomenon, actively absorbs radar radio waves directed at the vehicle from ground-based tracking stations, rendering the weapon functionally invisible to the very detection systems that missile defense batteries depend upon to compute their intercept solutions. The thermal engineering challenge of building a vehicle that can survive sustained flight inside this plasma cocoon is genuinely profound, requiring exotic material science involving reinforced carbon-carbon composites, hafnium-based ceramic coatings, and internal cooling architectures that have no precedent in conventional aerospace manufacturing. Russian engineers designed the Avangard to carry a nuclear warhead, and the weapon entered operational service in 2019, following a verification test recorded at Mach 20, making it the first confirmed operational hypersonic glide vehicle deployed by any nation on Earth. Beyond the Russian program, the People's Republic of China has independently developed and deployed the Dongfeng 41, designated DF-41, a road-mobile and silo-based intercontinental ballistic missile capable of achieving terminal re-entry velocities approaching Mach 25. The DF-41 represents one of the most consequential shifts in Chinese strategic nuclear doctrine since the nation first tested a nuclear device in 1964. Because its combination of a range exceeding 14,000 kilometers and the ability to carry up to 15 independently targetable re-entry vehicles means that a single launching canister contains sufficient destructive capacity to simultaneously obliterate 15 separate military installations or population centers spread across 2 continents. The United States counters this continental-scale threat not primarily from hardened silos buried beneath the American Great Plains, but from the ocean depths, where a fleet of Ohio-class nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines, each carrying 24 Trident II D5 missiles, prowl silently at depths and positions that no adversary satellite constellation or acoustic sensor network has ever reliably tracked. The Trident II D5 achieves estimated terminal reentry velocities between Mach 24 and Mach 25, accelerating through a multi-stage rocket burn sequence that begins with the weapon bursting upward from a water launch depth of approximately 50 meters before the first solid fuel stage ignites and drives the missile through the transonic regime into space on a trajectory calculated by an inertial guidance system of extraordinary precision. A single Ohio-class submarine represents a mobile nuclear deterrent force of such magnitude that the survivability of American strategic deterrence rests not on any fixed geographic location that an adversary can target in a first strike, but on the fundamental impossibility of locating and simultaneously destroying all deployed boats before any one of them receives and executes a retaliatory launch order. However, the geopolitical calculus of strategic missile development does not belong exclusively to the realm of intercontinental nuclear exchange, because a parallel and equally consequential competition has been unfolding at the level of conventional hypersonic weapons designed to strike individual military installations, naval vessels, and command facilities with precision that no nuclear weapon can offer, without triggering the catastrophic threshold of full strategic escalation. Leaving the stratospheric physics of ballistic re-entry vehicles behind, we have to examine the profoundly different and in many ways more technically demanding engineering domain of sustained hypersonic flight through the thicker air of the lower atmosphere, where a weapon must maintain its velocity, not through the passive momentum of a falling mass, but through the continuous operation of a propulsion system capable of functioning in one of the most hostile thermal environments that any mechanical device has ever been designed to endure. Russia's H-47M2 Kinzhal, the weapon that Russian military doctrine markets as a hypersonic aeroballistic missile capable of reaching Mach 10 in its terminal phase, is derived from the ground-launched Iskander-M short-range ballistic missile adapted for air launch from the MiG-31K interceptor. The operational reality of the Kinzhal in active combat was laid bare during Russia's war against Ukraine, beginning in 2022. Where the weapon was initially promoted as invulnerable to interception, but subsequently demonstrated that a Patriot air defense battery supplied to Ukraine by the United States was entirely capable of detecting, tracking, and destroying the incoming weapon before it reached its intended target. Russian engineers subsequently upgraded the Kinzhal with improved terminal phase maneuvering capability in direct response to these intercept successes. Russia's R-37 male air-to-air interceptor missile represents the absolute pinnacle of long-range aerial combat engineering, achieving sustained velocities of Mach 6, approximately 7,400 kilometers per hour, through an aerodynamic profile that deliberately exploits the thin upper atmosphere to reduce drag and preserve the enormous kinetic energy generated by its massive rocket motor during the initial acceleration phase. The missile weighs over 510 kilograms, making it one of the heaviest air-to-air weapons ever mounted on a tactical aircraft, and the sheer mass of its rocket propulsion section reflects the brutal engineering arithmetic of sustaining Mach 6 flight across engagement ranges exceeding 400 kilometers. The BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, developed jointly by India and Russia through the BrahMos Aerospace joint venture, has established itself as one of the most operationally significant and technically refined conventional strike weapons deployed anywhere on Earth, sustaining flight velocities between Mach 2.8 and Mach 3.0 through the continuous operation of a liquid-fueled ramjet engine that takes over from the initial solid propellant booster stage after the weapon has been accelerated to supersonic flight. The BrahMos achieves a circular error probability of between 1 and 2 meters at the terminal phase of its flight path by combining inertial navigation with satellite guidance corrections provided through GPS and GLONASS, topped by a final active radar seeker that locks onto the precise radar return signature of the target structure itself. Development of a successor designated BrahMos-2 is advancing toward flight test readiness, with the weapon expected to use a scramjet air-breathing engine to sustain Mach 8 cruise velocities across a range approaching 1,500 kilometers. The United States Air Force's own journey into operational hypersonic strike capability has been a considerably more turbulent engineering and bureaucratic odyssey than the confident public statements of American defense officials might suggest. With the AGM-183ARW, the air-launched rapid response weapon developed by Lockheed Martin, experiencing a program history that included 3 consecutive test failures between April and December 2021, before finally achieving a successful separation, booster ignition, and confirmed Mach 5+ velocity in a landmark test conducted off the coast of Southern California in May 2022. The weapon was subsequently canceled by the Air Force in March 2023, before the program was quietly revived and funded again in fiscal year 2026. The thermal engineering problem that underlies every one of these systems is identical in its fundamental physics, regardless of whether the weapon was designed in Zhukovsky, Chengdu, or a classified facility in Palmdale, California, because sustaining flight at velocities between Mach 5 and Mach 27 through the lower and middle atmosphere generates aerodynamic heating so intense that the boundary layer temperatures approach those found inside a rocket nozzle, requiring the exposed surfaces of the vehicle to be fabricated from materials that can simultaneously maintain structural integrity, retain dimensional accuracy, and resist oxidative chemical attack at sustained temperatures that would reduce conventional aerospace aluminum alloys to a flowing liquid within seconds of exposure. The carbon-carbon composite leading edges, hafnium diboride ceramic matrix coatings, and ablative thermal protection systems used across the various national programs each represent genuinely brilliant solutions to an engineering problem that has no straightforward answer, because the same high-velocity airflow that heats the vehicle to destructive temperatures also generates the lift and directional control forces that allow the weapon to maneuver. The plasma sheath phenomenon that renders Avangard-class vehicles nearly invisible to radar is not a deliberately engineered capability, but rather an unavoidable physical consequence of this extreme heating, a byproduct of basic hypersonic thermodynamics that the weapon's designers recognized could be exploited as a profound additional defensive advantage against the radar-guided interceptors of every existing missile defense network.